Hello.
All right, hello.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. This is my X-Core project. I'm interviewing my advisor and research advisor for my research project. Um, First question, do you know of any other HBCU bioinformatics departments?
So other one that I know of. Well, firstly, in terms of those that offer degrees, I don't know of any others. Not to say that there are not, because if there are any others that offer degrees in bioinformatics, I certainly don't want to. Well, I certainly want to give them credit for doing so. But another school that offers a certificate I said certificate, actually, a concentration in bioinformatics is Tennessee State University. That was actually my university, the school I taught at before Xavier, about 4 or 5 years ago now. So they offer a concentration in bioinformatics, and yeah, just a concentration. They don't offer a major or a minor. So from that perspective, Xavier is the only one that I know of, to my knowledge, that offers a full-fledged bachelor's in bioinformatics. But as I said, if others do, I don't want to take credit away from them.
That's a great answer. I actually was looking for evidence of another bioinformatics department, and I couldn't find any others either. I think I saw something with TSU, but I didn't think it was a degree program, so I didn't want to count it. But like, I definitely agree that we should most definitely not want to take credit away from other bioinformatics departments if they exist. But as of my current knowledge and your current knowledge, we are the only HBCU that offers a bioinformatics degree program.
Yes, I believe that is the case, to my knowledge, to our knowledge.
That's actually really exciting. Um, so another next question. Could you explain your current work and previous work?
All right. So currently, my research focuses. My research is in bioinformatics, but of course, that's a very broad field, as you know. So the research that I'm working on currently focuses on detecting and discovering genomic abnormalities related to cancer onset. That's a little more general. More specifically, and like the project you've been working on, so we're interested in those abnormalities that engender cancer onset and development. And in particular, with our project, we're interested in detecting and analyzing double minute chromosomes, which are found in some cancers, not all, but their presence is a problem. It really makes cancer more difficult to treat, and it's associated with poor patient outcomes. So we're working on computational methods to analyze them and to reconstruct them, to predict them. Previously, my research was related in bioinformatics. So when I was a PhD student, I focused mostly on the problem of simple structural variant detection using whole genome sequencing data. We're still looking for abnormalities in cancer genomes, and we're still doing genomics, bioinformatics with genomics, but the focus was on basic deletions, inversions, and tandem repeats, things of that nature. So the variants that we look for now, are a little more complex. Previous research as well, about 3 years ago, and I haven't worked for them since, but about 3 years ago, I was working for the US Navy, and that was working on analyzing the genomes of various kinds of viruses, like norovirus, adenovirus, influenza, things of that nature, other strains of coronavirus, not COVID-19, of course, but that was some of the other research that I was doing previously. So overall, it's bioinformatics research related to genomics research related to preserving human health.
Wow. So would you say that your focus and specialization is in genomics aspects of bioinformatics?
Yes, I would. Because, and one of the things that you and I have talked about before is that bioinformatics is so broad, right? You have genomics. Basically, you have people who work on RNA sequencing analysis and transcription, people who work with protein structure prediction and analysis, and any sort of analysis of post-translational systems. So, and there are also people who work on metagenomics, and there are people also who work on the more algorithmic side, who are focusing mostly on creating basic science, the basic science that kind of drives the field. So, right. So in my case, I focus on the genomic side, on detecting those abnormalities that affect our DNA, that affect the ability, let's say, for a cell to synthesize the protein it's supposed to, or to have the cells expressed the way that the genes expressed the way that they're supposed to be. So that's really what it comes down to. But yes, that's really my focus.
Okay, that's good. That's interesting. So you're saying that even within the field of genomics, bioinformatics, there's still so many things you could do and so many avenues you could go into.
Oh, definitely. So effectively, because if we just look at biology, every level of a biological organism, there's so many layers. So we talk about, whenever we think about the central dogma of molecular biology, right? So from DNA we get RNA, and from RNA we get protein, and then there's some other alternate flows of information within that. But effectively, when we think about DNA, RNA, protein, those molecular, those very important macromolecules in molecular biology. Um, Even just with those, there are so many different areas. So people who study, for example, the things that I study, people who study protein or do research related to protein structure prediction. There are people who study mostly who study gene regulation, which is a little bit, which we sort of dabble in a little bit with what we do in double minute analysis. But yes, bioinformatics is very, very, very broad. And it's not uncommon to see conferences, especially major conferences, that have many different satellites or many different tracks that are meant for people who are focusing on a particular area. Because even within these different areas, there are many people doing the research, there's many different focus groups that could be interested in one particular area. For example, the paper that we're going to present at Recom in a few months from now, that's actually part of a whole genome sequencing group, or I should say, massively parallel sequencing um, interest group. So yes, it's a very broad field, and there's many different areas by which someone can carve a niche.
Okay, that's good to know. Next question. I'm sure you answered this before, but how did you get involved with bioinformatics and why did you choose bioinformatics?
Right. So effectively, and I guess I'm kind of going way back in the past here. So for my master's research, this is many years ago, like 2006, 2007, let's say. For my master's research, I was actually doing research in cybersecurity and on analyzing computer programs for evidence of computer virus infection. So one of the tasks involved with that and the system we were working on. So one of the tasks involved with that was the creation of malware phylogenies. So effectively, and as you know, as we've talked about, a phylogeny, of course, just some sort of description of the evolutionary relationship among a set of organisms, like the phylogenetic tree, if you will. Well, we can actually build one of those from malware for computer programs. If you build a phylogeny from malware, well, you actually have that evolutionary history. Because in that case, many people who make malware, what actually happens is that many people who create malware, they don't make it from scratch. They sort of just take existing malware and just alter it. So my research was on the development of those kinds of systems. But there was a lot of bioinformatics that overlapped that. So in my research, I actually read many papers in bioinformatics. I came across many topics in bioinformatics, and I realized I started to just become very interested in taking biology and marrying it with computation. Um, so when I finished my master's program, I actually made the decision. I think I don't want to continue cybersecurity research. It is a very important field, but I think I don't want to continue this. I think I wanted to go into bioinformatics, just based on the little exposure that I had in my own cybersecurity research. So effectively, that's why I chose it. That's how I came to transition from cybersecurity to bioinformatics. And also, another reason why I chose it, I felt I could make a bigger impact um, because basically, so using bioinformatics to address problems in cancer development and onset was something that was very important. It was something that I wanted to really do. So yeah, so from the standpoint of how I started in bioinformatics and what really motivated me to do the research, yeah, that's really what I'd say.
That's an interesting story. So you started in cybersecurity, but because of bioinformatics' intense overlap with cybersecurity and creating phylogenies, which is like, I'm sorry about that. But essentially, creating phylogenies with malware viruses introduced you to bioinformatics, and that's how you got interested.
Exactly. And there were many different what I saw was that a lot of the challenges that I faced in malware phylogeny analysis were already existing problems in bioinformatics. And I basically said to myself, oh, that seems pretty interesting, actually. A lot of these problems exist here as well. So it's just something where I felt I could make a bigger impact, something that I just definitely felt was it sort of fired me up more. It's something I just felt that was much more interesting to me than cybersecurity. But once again, cybersecurity is clearly a very important field. It's just one that I felt that my work had been completed for.
Okay, so speaking of impact, I actually have another interesting question. So how do you feel and what do you think about the rising wave of evidence that shows that there's a increase and there's a definite bias that a lot of computer algorithms have against Black people and people of color?
Oh, so basically, yeah. So it really is an ethical challenge, right? And it's something where I think from the question, it seems that you have specific examples in mind. Um, I could think of a few where it's really been an issue. I know that Google had a problem a number of years ago with its classification, its image classification algorithm. Um, and and if people are interested, they can look it up. I'm not going to go through what actually happened, but definitely, I think a large part of it is that the people who are actually behind the scenes writing the programs, developing the algorithms, I think there just needs to be more representation, right? Um, I think that if we're talking about these algorithms and these computer systems that are being developed, if there's not if there's not sufficient representation in the people who develop it, you're going to see these kinds of biases, these sorts of you're going to see these biases, these really biased incidents that occur that sort of reflect that. So overall, it's just my opinion that there definitely needs to be more representation. Um, people people of all races, all genders, and I think the more you see that happening, then the less we might see, the less of these incidents we may actually see.
That's an interesting opinion. So what you're pretty much saying is that the problem that's causing this new issue is nothing necessarily new. It's the same thing that happens in a lot of fields, which is that there isn't enough representation of Black people and other people of color making the things that are going to be used by everybody.
Exactly. So, and that sort of representation has been an issue for years. It's a problem now. And and once again, when the people behind the scenes, if there's not enough representation for the people behind the scenes, that's going to create some natural bias in those algorithms and in those programs, right? So I think that that's a large. I think that would go a long way. That would go a long way in addressing these issues that you're discussing.
Okay, that's an interesting opinion. I like that. It makes a lot of sense. I read a lot of papers and I've seen a lot of instances where these algorithms that are made by these large tech companies and corporations just simply don't even have enough data from, a diverse pool. They just pull from a pool that they think is diverse or that seems to make sense to them. And all of a sudden you have all these problems with it actually working for the mass population because the population doesn't represent the data set that's being used to make the algorithms.
Exactly.
Okay, next question. Um, what do you think is the significance of having an HBCU bioinformatics department?
Well, right. So effectively, the really important thing about it is that bioinformatics, like many other STEM fields, bioinformatics is one field where there's not a lot of representation among people of color. And the importance of it from that standpoint is, to me, the importance from that standpoint is apparent. It's something that once more students begin to matriculate through our program, well, we're going to start pushing out more and more people, more and more graduates who are prepared to enter these careers. So, and it's not just bioinformatics. STEM fields in general suffer from the same problem. So we don't have as many people of color in these fields. We don't have as many. We don't have as much representation of people from different genders. It's just something that we really have to work on. So I think the importance of a bioinformatics major at an HBCU is one large step towards that, and it's one of the reasons that I think this is a really good program.
Wow, that is very, very inspiring. So I have a few more questions left. What does the future of Xavier Bioinformatics and other HBCU bioinformatics departments look like?
Well, so to answer that question, I would also think about the question of, well, what is the future of bioinformatics? I can tell you the future of bioinformatics is limitless. It's not something that it's not a field that's going to go away. Um, More and more technologies are finding them way are finding their ways into everyday situations like doctors' offices, hospitals. Um, there's a greater and greater need for bioinformatics. Now, to the question of the need for bioinformatics at an HBCU, it's sort of similar. So, and once again, I think your question was about, if you can reiterate, your question mostly was about um, bioinformatics and its need at HBCUs.
We addressed that question. Mine was the future of bioinformatics
Oh,
at an
future.
HBCU.
Okay, my apologies. The future of bioinformatics at HBCU. Yeah, so along the same lines. So there is room. There definitely is. There definitely is a lot of exciting. There are many exciting avenues, and there's great potential, in my opinion. So, not just from the standpoint of bioinformatics in terms of its need. I mentioned the future need of bioinformatics and where it's going in the future. The fact that the field is going to continue to grow. It's been growing for decades. HBCUs can definitely tap into that. It definitely will be very important. One of the things that separates an HBCU from other universities, in my opinion, is that personalized interaction that students get. Students have a much greater chance, in my opinion, to learn more about their fields, learn more about the careers that they're going to be going into. And when you combine that with the bioinformatics major, I feel that our students have the potential to be very highly prepared for these careers versus some other universities, maybe. So I think that in terms of HBCUs in bioinformatics going into the future, I really believe that this is something that more schools can and should be doing because it's such an important field. It's going to be even more important in the future. And it's something that will really benefit our students. And it's something that students will be able to make a profound impact on. So I just really think that the possibilities are endless. It's something that I really do strongly believe.
I think I believe it too. Okay, last question, and then we're done with the interview. Um, what have been some major challenges in creating a bioinformatics department at any university or an HBCU?
Right. So at Xavier, so Xavier's the only school where I was directly involved in establishing its major. I would suppose biggest challenge, the biggest challenge so far has been to get ourselves out there. The actual creation of it has not been too bad. Um, I think the biggest challenge so far has been getting more students, informing people of what bioinformatics is, because now that might seem contradictory to what I said before about how important bioinformatics is, but I, I don't believe so because bioinformatics is an important field. Its skill sets are important, but it's one that I think a lot of people in any setting, I think it's one that I think a lot of people don't know a ton about. Um, and you were at my talk on the computer science club, and I was saying that usually when I talk to people, everyday people, bioinformatics or computational biology, one of the first responses is what is that? And it's not something you get when we talk about math or computer science, right? People generally have heard of those. One of the biggest challenges has been to sort of cut through that barrier because so I think people are less likely, of course, to major in something when they've never even heard of it, right? So informing the public about bioinformatics, informing our potential students about bioinformatics, about why it's important, about what it is that we do. Um, that's really been the biggest challenge. But I think we're making good inroads. So we have plans to address that. We have plans to address issues related to recruiting and whatnot. And the bioinformatics major, we're not super big right now, but it's been steadily growing every year. So I think that some good things will happen. But to answer your question, that's what I would say the biggest challenge has been. But definitely not one that we cannot overcome.
Of course. Personally speaking, I've had many instances where I've told people my major and they've said, what is that? Especially within my peers and other people who are pre-med, the word bioinformatics, it's like Spanish to them. I don't understand how that is, but it is. I think I'm the only pre-med bioinformatics major that a lot of people have met at this school. And it's interesting, it's fun, you get to say, I have a major that you don't know about, but also it's been difficult because it's been hard to find other people to talk to about my experiences.
And definitely that is something that and on that same line, that is something that would be definitely another challenge, right? It's exactly what you said. It's one that we're working towards remedying, just getting more students. In your case, you you actually have so you're actually one of the very first students we have, as you know, for our major. So definitely, as we begin to get the word out more about the program, it's my hope that we'll start to see our numbers definitely boost. But that definitely has been one of our challenges. But like I said, it's one that is not it's not atypical for new majors. Um, but it's also one where it's also a challenge that we're definitely ready to tackle.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is that the challenge of creating a bioinformatics department is simply a challenge of creating a new major anywhere, making sure that there's people who know about it and joining.
Precisely.
Oh, well, thank you for taking your time to interview with me and, answering my questions. This has been exciting and really, really informative. Do you have any last words before we end the interview?
So effectively, so yeah, the only thing I would say really is that I was saying earlier, I think the bioinformatics definitely it's definitely a great time to be in bioinformatics. Um, Basically, there's lots of it's a field that's appealing to people who love a challenge. It's a field that appeals to people who love many disciplines, math, computer science, biology, statistics, for example, and especially doing it at an HBCU is really good because the type of instruction is not the same, in my opinion, at many other schools. And I think that when you take all these things and you combine them with the fact that this is such an important field and it has many real world applications. Um, it's already made significant impacts in human health and other fields in biology. I think it's a really exciting time to be part of the major, and I really encourage people to think about it if they are thinking about a major.
Mm. Good. So you think that, having more HBCU bioinformatics departments could help us, involve and combat these issues that exist in bioinformatics or informatics or tech in general with, having algorithms that do present biases against other Black people.
Oh, no doubt. So what I was saying before is that representation definitely matters to combat this. And I think once we start to address this issue of representation, you'll start to see that less and less.
That's good. That's good. All right. Thank you for taking your time once again. This interview has been great, but, I think time is running out, so I got to cut it off or stop the recording. Thank you so much, though.
Yeah, but these are no problem at all. Thank you very much.